Well, I'm sure most United supporters expected a loss, though at least a small part of them held on to some hope that they would see a repeat of United's comeback win against City from the previous season.
Ahmed! It's in! It's brilliant!
And since then, there have been few things to cheer about, except for maybe in the transfer window for those in the fan base that got who they wanted. But beyond that, there isn't much to smile about, as United have had one of the biggest fall-offs that we've seen amongst the big clubs in the Premier League era. And United just wasn't one of the big clubs prior. They were the big club in the Premier League era. As Liverpool were going through their banter era, United were flying. But the thing is, even during Liverpool's worst Premier League years, they never finished lower than 8th. United's worst season in the last 50 years, since they made their way back up to the top tier in England, was 13th in the 1989-90 season. That's when Ferguson was figuring things out at the club still, with some mid-table finishes, but cup successes sprinkled in to show some promise. This was also a time when coaches were, well, given time. Because it's a different time now that Ruben Amorim is living in. His own words are kind of becoming the metaphorical rope that he could be hung with. A bit of a medieval way of saying it, but you get me. This talk of needing wins in order to get time from when he was first hired.
What are your key priorities?
We know that we need time, but we have to win time. To win time is win games.
He's not succeeding there. In fact, from almost a season's worth of Premier League matches, 31, he's won just 8 of them. 8. An insane number, and all told, since he was hired, his league form has United in 17th, so about bang on with where they actually are, 31 points from 31 matches, as you can see from this from Opta. Take issue with whatever you want with Amorim, but he has never been dishonest. In fact, at times maybe a little too honest. Some see it as endearing and refreshing. Others see it as somewhat lacking in awareness of how his words affect the players.
Sometimes I hate my players.
But regardless, he's been an open book in saying that he will not change his way of doing things.
You have to change the man.
Maybe he could consider it. We'll talk about that later, but that proclamation then kind of shines the big spotlight on United. Will they change their way of doing things? Will they give Amorim a full season to try and fail or succeed in the name of trying something different? Or will they continue the cycle of sacking, rinsing, and repeating?
United look all over the place. I think they're just United are an average team.
I, like so many other people, thought that he would be a success at Manchester United. Again, no crystal ball here. The assumption was that he would be able to bring some magic as he did at Sporting when it comes to getting the club on the right track. I did mention later how it was a bit easier at Sporting for him because the difference from the big three to the rest of the clubs in the Portuguese league is huge when it comes to squad strength, spending power, everything. Whereas the differences amongst the big three is less so, and that's where some great coaching and man management can be the difference maker to lift Sporting above Benfica and Porto. Know what I mean? Conversely, at United, he was stepping into a situation where United was and still is in the gutter, where they don't have a competitive squad compared to the other big boys, and where maybe the rot is even deeper than we thought. I mean, I knew it was bad, that's obvious, but I guess I underestimated just how bad it was, how much that would hamstring Amorim, and how these players would struggle so much with his system. I didn't see that coming. Last season when it wasn't working out, I said that change would be silly because the season was already lost, right? Use the rest of it as well as the preseason to get everyone on board and let this season be the real litmus test. Maybe part of the problem with this is that the players don't seem to buy into it because they don't fully buy into Amorim, perhaps. They maybe think that they're above him in a sense, that he doesn't have the credit in the bank when it comes to achievements as a coach in order for them to fully back his system. But the direct argument against that is just how, well, no other manager since Sir Alex has been able to either find any kind of success at all, or in some cases, sustain it. Look at the reputations of Van Gaal and Jose Mourinho before signing on. They left with 1 and 2 trophies apiece. Ten Hag was seen as the next big thing in coaching. 2 trophies at the time, a record low finish in the Premier League era. Ole, given plenty of patience, nothing to show for it unfortunately. Those managers had a trophy to point to, or were at least in the top 6 like Ole, but one of the common sentiments amongst supporters is that players gave up on him just as they have done everywhere else.
I think they gave the response on the pitch today. The team and the players spoke really loud.
So it begs the question of whether or not Ruben Amorim really is the problem. I think that it's safe to say, given this team's recent history post Sir Alex, no, he isn't the main problem with this team. You can look at the executive positions, failings in the market, the failings of the squad, and the failings of Ruben, etc. Change is needed at United. That's the most obvious thing at this moment, but where will that happen? Will Amorim change himself? He's said he won't. Not right now, at least, as following the 3-0 loss to City, he said, quote, "You have no idea what happened during these months in charge, but I accept that. I'm not going to change. When I want to change my philosophy, I will change. If not, you have to change the man." Even as someone who likes Amorim and wants to see him succeed, I'm kind of at the point where I would like to see him try to change something, because at some point, I get it, man. You were brought in to play your system. I understand that. But to me, when it comes to coaches and a preferred system of play, as well as being stubborn, I look to Antonio Conte. Now, Conte was quite rigid after changing to 3 at the back with Chelsea, and that continued at Inter and even at Tottenham. But at Napoli, things changed, and he started playing with a back 4 more often. Even recently, Conte has spoken about how a good coach is one who can make changes to their own beliefs in order to get the best out of their players. Yes, Antonio Conte, one of the most stubborn coaches and a guy who didn't move from his back 3 previously, has been saying this. So if Conte is saying it, given his record of success as the only manager in history to win Serie A with 3 different teams, as well as trophies in England, if he's saying it, then adaptability should be considered as a strength, should be considered as important as the ability to get your preferred system to work. And honestly, while I respect in some ways how Amorim has stuck to his guns and how he has so much unwavering belief in his system, it feels like he sees a change in system as more of a failure than it would be to get sacked. But in reality, I think it's safe to say that he's the only one who really cares about the system and which way they are playing. If he was to change the system and find better results, the squad and the fans would be happier, and he would have a new tool added to his belt. Don't see it as a step back or a dropping of principles. See it as another option for you, as a way to be more multidimensional as a coach. There is a famous quote from when Sporting hired Ruben Amorim that kind of went on to be brought up frequently when looking at all of his successes at Sporting as a wow, what a badass kind of thing. And I'll get the actual quote for you guys, because it was something along the lines of, they say, what if it goes poorly? And I say, what if it goes well? Something like that. Editor Adrian sorted out. Right now, this kind of sounds like the internal monologue within Amorim's head, where he's only listening to the voice that says, stick to your guns. Stick to the 3-4-2-1, no matter what, because the players should be able to pick it up. And to a certain extent, I agree. That's another confusing thing, is if the Sporting players were so able to, why can't this group of Premier League players? A lot of United's issues when it comes to their defensive record comes down to mistakes by the center backs and goalkeepers. That's for sure. It's the 2, match-deciding ends of the pitch that are suffering the most important areas. So perhaps you do well to tweak something. A back 4 could be a big difference for this team. This team seems like it would really thrive in a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3. Back in the day, Jose Mourinho had this to say about managers who have very specific ideas and visions for how they want to play. Quote, "There are coaches who try things that don't work and fail, but they say, 'I died with my idea.' If you die with your idea, you're stupid. Coaches have to adapt their ideas to what they have." Now, say what you will about Mourinho's managerial career of late, but the way he analyzes the game is typically spot on. And so comes the big divide. Not just should Amorim stick with his system or change it, but should United stick with him or change him out? There are 3 camps. The Amorim should stay but concede on his system a bit, and the Amorim should be sacked camp. That last one is essentially putting United back at the beginning once again, another restart, another coach that has to come in and try to make a coherent plan with a group of players that represents the last few managers. They see it as change coaches until you find the right one. That can take time. What all camps point to, one shared belief, they point to how with each change of coach, the club gets worse and worse. Some see that as a reason to not move on from Amorim, while others see it as a reason to keep changing until the right fit comes along. There's a belief that there is a manager out there who will be different from those who came before them, that they'll be able to sprinkle some magic dust on Old Trafford and they'll be heading in the right direction. Maybe Jurgen Klopp could, but that's never happening. So it becomes, well, is Amorim the problem? Probably not, but right now he's not the solution. And it's all a bit messy, isn't it? And the thing is, there is no real obvious answer. Let's say they do change Amorim, as they are tired of the terrible results they're getting. Others would argue that they are tired of this cycle, and that in sacking someone like Amorim, they're potentially stunting the club's progression by pruning the bud before it blooms. It's a matter of perspective and a matter of patience, really. I, on the one hand, understand the urgency from some of the fan base that is, so used to winning, right? They'd experienced a level of success that few fan bases get to experience. That almost like spoils you, for lack of a better word. Well, on the other hand, the urgency feels like it needs to be dropped, and patience comes into play to deviate from the cycle that wasn't serving them that well. It's like I always say, some people, the way they look at football is like they believe that football's ending and that they have to win now. They have to fix something now, and they'll do anything to get some sort of result, some sort of win, but it won't address the root issue. One way or another, what's clear is that there is no clear, definitive answer. And that while change of some sort is on its way, will United actually be better off? So, hey there, by the way, after watching through this, what would I do? I try to put myself in a United supporter's shoes because I can relate to the expectation of success, right? As a Benfica supporter, we have that as well in our own kind of way. We also had a stretch where, the talk of player power, of players downing tools for the manager, and then suddenly they're good for the next guy for a bit when they got sick of the previous manager. That was pretty prevalent for a while at Benfica as well. So anyway, with United, I think I would say that in this moment, I would be sick of the sacking cycle, and I would want to give Ruben Amorim the rest of the season until his position is untenable, right? If you're around November, December, and Manchester United are just floating just above the relegation zone, as his Premier League record has pointed to, right? I'm sorry, but that's unacceptable. As much as I like the guy, that is unacceptable, and you have to move on, right? The man has to go. I think 4 of his wins have been against teams that are already relegated or something like that. But there's still a chance that things can improve in the next couple of months. They played 2 top opposition in their first 4 matches. In one of those matches, they looked quite good, against Arsenal. Still lost, but looked quite good against Arsenal. Matches they probably didn't expect to win anyways, let's be honest. Probably expected to lose, let's be honest, because they're still early and trying to make things right. So let's see what he does in the next couple of months. See you in November, December kind of thing, Anyway, just realized this is the end of the video. So thank you, Editor Adrian, getting to see you off. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll have Champions League coverage for you later this week. Remember, there's matches Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So UCL this week will be out on Friday morning, my time, Eastern time. All right. Love you guys. Take care.